I'm thinking about PBL, project-based learning. From watching my boys play for hours upon hours, I can't help thinking that project-based learning should be a lot like play. The play we engage in when we are young children, as well as the play or engaging work that we get lost in as adults. On this day after Christmas 2010, my boy started the morning by playing Pirates. Coincidentally, at the same time, I was reading blog postings from two of my colleagues. One is recently contemplating how to replace the content march sometimes created by APs, and the other is tinkering with ideas of learning age versus chronological age. No one structured the play of my sons. They chose to play Pirates. And no one structured the thought play of my colleagues. They are writing to think more deeply about ideas that matter to them. For my sons, their pirate simulations soon morphed into building flying machines for dogfights and air battles. Philip started building with Legos while Jackson built with trios. Typically, they begin by using the scaffolded picture directions. As Philip transitioned to a newly acquired erector set, he continued to use the picture directions for scaffolding and support. However, both boys soon made a switch to jazz-like improvisation. At first, they simply add short riffs to existing plans. Then, they build completely original structures for which there are no plans. When their imaginations outstrip the manual, and when they feel more confident, there seem to be no pages that can contain their creativity. They prototype and demonstrate a genuine growth mindset, realizing that mistakes and failures are essential for getting to better designs. Listen to Philip describe his first original erector set creation, and then listen to Common Craft and the Buck Institute describe PBL.
It is the awesomest thing I've probably ever made without instructions, at least from whatever this is made out of, which is the first I've done without instructions, so it's probably not going to be the coolest, but
I do wonder how Philip's mindset may be affected by formalized learning in school.
You remember what it was like in school. It was boring. You sat in class, memorized as much as you could, and tried to pass a test at the end. But is that good enough? These days, school can be more interesting and effective by focusing students on work that matters. This is project-based learning explained. Most adults live in a world of projects. Whether it's a job assignment, home improvement, or planning a wedding, we need to actively solve problems. But unfortunately, schoolwork looks more like this than this. Let's take a look at this project-based world. Meet Claire. She was recently presented with a challenge. Her company, Super Suds, makes soap, and it was up to her to find the most earth-friendly way to produce it in the future. Her boss gave her a budget and a few requirements, and it was up to her to come up with a solution. She organized and managed a team who researched the options and created materials summarizing the issues. Claire's team asked for feedback and presented their findings to the boss. Claire came out of the project looking like a rock star, and she learned a lot about green products. If you look closely, Claire's success involved critical thinking, collaboration, and communication, things that aren't often taught in traditional classrooms. The world needs more Claires, so how do we get them? The answer is project-based learning, or PBL. By focusing students on a project, teachers put them on a path that deepens their knowledge and builds skills they'll need in the future. Here's what I mean. Mr. Simmons has always been a good science teacher, and his students do well on Friday's tests. Unfortunately, what they learned was gone by Saturday morning. That wasn't good enough for him. Soon he learned about project-based learning and decided to give it a shot. Mr. Simmons got the idea for his first project on microorganisms when nearly half of his students were suddenly absent with the flu. He asked his students why they thought so many of their classmates got sick at the same time. That lively discussion produced a lot of good questions and a list of things the kids wanted to know. Mr. Simmons then announced their project was to help elementary school kids understand, how can we not get sick? After dividing the class into teams, he got them started on the project. It was up to the students to ask questions, research, collaborate, give each other feedback, and figure out the best ways to make their points clear to children. One team chose to make an educational video on the connection between hand washing and avoiding the flu. Another chose to create posters to show how viruses spread. The project teams showed off their final work to an enthusiastic audience of parents and their children at a nearby elementary school. Sitting in the front row was our good friend and local rock star Claire, who saw a bit of herself in the students. It was clear that the project was a success for the students, the audience, and Mr. Simmons. His students practiced critical thinking, collaboration, and communication. The project wasn't about memorization, but learning in depth about viruses and how to prevent spreading disease, a lesson they will never forget. At the end of the presentation, Claire introduced herself to the students and told them that they were rock stars and that the world needs more people who can think like them. To learn more about project-based learning, go to BIE.org.
Most recently, my thinking about project-based learning has been inspired by co-facilitating a new course called Synergy 8. In Synergy 8, students come up with their own research questions based on observation journals, and in teams they decide what projects they're going to pursue. This semester, students decided on a cell phone project and a lunch line project. Watching these 8th graders work on their projects has seemed a lot more like watching my own children play than the previous years in my teaching economics, algebra, geometry, and history. I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that the students got to select their own projects. They arose out of their own questions, things that they didn't understand or wanted to know more about, things that mattered to them. Next semester, Jill Goff and I will teach Synergy 8 again to a new group of students. I hope the demand is as high next year as it was this year. I'm already thinking quite a bit about how to make their projects much more like the play of young children and the work that adults choose to do, work that matters to us.